When someone doesn't respect you, the first instinct most people have is either to push back hard or to stay silent and hope it goes away. But neither of those really works. Pushing back too aggressively just escalates the problem, while silence teaches the other person that you're okay with the way they're treating you. Respect starts with boundaries, and those boundaries aren't about punishment, they're about clarity. You can't expect people to treat you differently if you never tell them how you want to be treated. That's where boundaries come in, and the stronger you are at setting them, the faster people understand you're not available for disrespect. The problem is, many people think boundaries are rude. They worry that saying no will offend someone or make them look selfish. But let me flip that thought for you. Boundaries are not about controlling other people. They're about controlling yourself. You don't force someone to do anything with a boundary. You simply say, "This is what I will and won't allow in my space." Think about a fence around a yard. The fence doesn't stop someone from walking on the sidewalk, but it makes it clear where your property begins and where their freedom ends. Without that fence, you can't expect anyone to know they've crossed a line. Let's put this into practice. Imagine someone constantly interrupts you in conversations. You feel disrespected, but you've never said anything. Every time they do it, your frustration grows, but they keep right on doing it. Why? Because you haven't drawn the line. A boundary sounds like this: I want to hear what you're saying, but I also want the same chance to finish my thought. Please let me complete my point before jumping in. That's clear. That's respectful. That's a boundary. Notice it's not an attack, it's an instruction. The difference is huge. Here's the part people get wrong. Boundaries are not suggestions. They're not a polite hint that you hope the other person picks up on. Boundaries need to be direct, specific, and paired with action if they're ignored. Otherwise, they're not boundaries at all. They're just wishes. If someone crosses the line after you've stated it clearly, the responsibility shifts to you. You don't argue. You don't beg. You don't complain. You follow through. If you said you'd leave the room if the disrespect continues, you leave. That action shows you're serious without needing to raise your voice. It's also important to remember that boundaries don't need an apology attached. Too many people soften their boundaries with phrases like, "I'm sorry, but," or "I don't mean to be difficult, but." That weakens your message. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're self-respect. When you deliver them, you do so with confidence. You don't owe anyone an apology for expecting to be treated with decency. In fact, every time you apologize for your boundary, you make it easier for the other person to dismiss it as optional. Remove the apology, and your boundary stands taller. Boundaries also reveal who respects you and who doesn't. People who value you will adjust once they know where the line is. People who don't respect you will get defensive, dismissive, or even angry when you state your needs. And while that might feel uncomfortable in the moment, it's actually a gift. It shows you who's capable of being in your space long-term and who isn't. Think of boundaries as a filter. The people who can handle them are safe to keep around. The people who can't reveal themselves quickly, and you save yourself years of frustration by knowing sooner rather than later. When you start setting boundaries, you'll notice something powerful. The more you practice, the less resistance you feel inside. At first, it's uncomfortable. You'll second-guess yourself, wonder if you're being too harsh, maybe even feel guilty. That's normal because you're breaking a habit of people-pleasing. But the more you enforce your limits calmly and clearly, the more natural it becomes. You stop viewing boundaries as a confrontation and start seeing them as protection. You begin to carry yourself differently, with quiet confidence, because you know you won't allow anyone to treat you beneath the standard you've set. When someone disrespects you, the natural urge is to snap back, raise your voice, or throw their energy right back at them. That's what disrespect tries to pull out of you. It baits you into abandoning your control, because the moment you react in anger, they've won. You've proven that they can get under your skin. Staying calm isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about protecting your power. The calmer you are, the harder it is for anyone to take control of the situation away from you. Calmness isn't weakness. It's strength under control. Think about the last time someone came at you with disrespect. Maybe they raised their voice, rolled their eyes, or dismissed you in front of others. Did it make you want to bite back? Of course. That's human. But if you answered their heat with more heat, what happened? The situation escalated. And when it escalates, you lose influence. Calmness works the opposite way. It slows the pace. It forces the other person to realize they can't drag you into their storm. It's not about suppressing your emotions. It's about choosing not to let them dictate your response. There's a reason calmness feels uncomfortable at first. Most of us are wired to defend ourselves instantly, to fight disrespect with force. But calmness doesn't mean silence. It means steady tone, steady words, steady body language. Imagine two people yelling. They're not listening. They're battling. Now imagine one person speaking slowly with measured words while the other shouts. Who looks in control? The calm person. That control earns respect, even if the other person doesn't show it in the moment. You're proving you won't be dragged into chaos. One of the most effective tools to stay calm is slowing your response. You don't need to fire back instantly. You can pause, breathe, look at the person. That pause creates space, and space gives you clarity. In that moment, you decide what to say instead of blurting out something you'll regret. Think of it like putting a buffer between their disrespect and your reply. The pause tells them you're not rattled, you're thinking, and you're not going to play their game. And often, that pause alone makes them rethink how they're coming at you. Another way to maintain calm is through your tone of voice. Tone communicates more than words ever do. A calm, steady tone says, "I'm in control." A raised, shaky, or sarcastic tone says, "I'm losing it." Even if your words are strong, if your tone cracks, you give away your power. Practice lowering your voice instead of raising it. When someone disrespects you and you lower your tone, you stand out instantly. People expect fire to meet fire. They don't expect water. Calmness surprises them, and surprise has power. Body language is just as critical. If your arms are flailing, your eyes darting, your posture collapsing, you've already lost ground. Calm body language means squared shoulders, steady eye contact, minimal movement. You're not frozen, but you're composed. That stillness communicates unshakable confidence. And here's the thing, even if you don't feel confident inside, acting calm on the outside often helps you feel calmer on the inside. Your body can teach your mind how to follow. Over time, staying calm in the face of disrespect becomes less about the other person and more about your own peace. You stop reacting to every slight, every comment, every jab. You realize not every battle deserves your energy, and not every word deserves your reply. Calmness becomes your filter. You're no longer pulled into every storm someone tries to create. Instead, you stand like a rock in the river. The water rushes around you, but you remain steady. And when you live that way, people begin to recognize something powerful in you. They realize they can't control you with disrespect. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they feel disrespected is swinging too far in their response. They either say nothing at all, or they come out swinging with words designed to cut back. But silence builds resentment, and aggression builds conflict. The middle ground is assertiveness, and that's where the real power lies. Assertive language allows you to stand up for yourself without putting someone else down. It communicates your standards without turning the moment into a fight. It's a skill, and like any skill, the more you practice it, the sharper it becomes. Think about the difference between these two statements. You're always rude to me, and I'm sick of it, versus I won't continue this conversation if the disrespect continues. The first one is aggressive. It attacks the other person. It uses exaggeration like always, and it fuels defensiveness. The second one is assertive. It doesn't accuse, it doesn't exaggerate. It simply lays down a clear standard and consequence. The shift may sound small, but it changes everything about how your words are received. One triggers a wall, the other sets a line. Assertive language also avoids blame. Instead of, "You make me feel stupid when you talk like that," you might say, "I don't accept being spoken to in that way." Do you hear the difference? The first puts the responsibility on the other person to validate your feelings. The second puts the responsibility on you to set your boundary. It's not about handing them power. It's about claiming your own. Aggressive language gives them a reason to fight back. Assertive language gives them a choice, either adjust or lose access to you. Tone plays a major role here as well. You can use the right words but the wrong tone and still sound aggressive. Assertive language is paired with calm delivery. You're not spitting the words like bullets, you're placing them like markers. Your tone is steady, direct, and confident. When your words and tone match, your message lands clean. That's when the person on the other side realizes you're not here to fight, you're here to stand firm. And firmness delivered with calmness is hard to argue with. Another aspect of assertive language is precision. Avoid vague statements like, "I don't like the way you act sometimes." That's too broad, too unclear. Precision sounds like, "When you interrupt me, it makes it impossible for me to share my full thought. I need you to let me finish before responding." That's specific, clear, and actionable. Aggressive language leaves the other person guessing what the real issue is. Assertive language removes all guesswork. It identifies the behavior, names the problem, and sets the expectation for change. Assertiveness also keeps the focus on your boundaries instead of their flaws. Aggression says, "You're the problem." Assertiveness says, "This is the standard I live by." One approach attacks the person, the other protects your space. And when you shift the focus away from who they are and onto what you allow, you make it much harder for them to twist the conversation or distract from the issue. Assertiveness keeps the spotlight where it belongs, on your right to be treated with respect. With practice, you'll notice assertive language begins to